Ever notice how ads always pop up at the worst moments? When the killer's identity is about to be revealed. During that perfect meditation flow. On Amazon Music, we believe in keeping you in the moment. That's why we've got millions of ad-free podcast episodes, so you can stay completely immersed in every story, every reveal, every breath. Download the Amazon Music app and start listening to your favorite podcasts ad-free, included with Prime.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
Hey listeners, this is Peter, and welcome back to the History Shorts podcast. This humble show is brought to you by the Podcast Republic, your ultimate listening app. Discover and subscribe to thousands of podcasts from around the globe, yours truly included, and all in one place. Download Podcast Republic now, available on Google Play and the Apple App Store. Today on History Shorts, he conquered most of Europe, crowned himself emperor, and rewrote the laws of a continent. But when it all came crashing down, when the cannons fell silent and the map makers met in Vienna, Napoleon Bonaparte was no longer a ruler, but a prisoner. Twice exiled, twice dethroned. And yet, even from a tiny island, he would command the world's attention and shape how history remembered him. This is the story of Napoleon in exile, the emperor who refused to disappear.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Napoleon's empire stretched from the Atlantic to the borders of Russia. No one in modern Europe had ever ruled so much land, commanded so many armies, or inspired such fear. But ambition, like empire, has its limits. His disastrous invasion of Russia that year shattered his legend of invincibility. Over 500,000 men had followed him, barely a fraction returned. Frost, famine, and relentless Russian resistance annihilated the Grand Army. The once unstoppable emperor limped back to Paris with his authority fractured. Europe smelled blood. Britain, Russia, Prussia, and Austria, old enemies, united once again to form the Sixth Coalition. Battle after battle, they pushed Napoleon's armies back through Germany, across the Rhine, and finally to the gates of Paris. By the spring of 1814, the impossible had happened. Paris fell. Even Napoleon's most loyal marshals begged him to step down. On April 6, 1814, the Emperor of the French signed his first abdication. He was allowed to live, but not in France. Instead, the man who had ruled a continent was sent to govern a speck of rock in the Mediterranean, the island of Elba. If Napoleon's enemies hoped exile would humble him, they miscalculated. Elba, just 87 miles of mountainous terrain off the coast of Italy, became his new, small empire. And in true Napoleonic fashion, he ran it exactly like one. He reorganized the government, reformed the courts, built roads, reopened iron mines, and even designed a new flag, a red stripe, a white stripe, and 3 golden bees. The Emperor of Elba, as he was mockingly called, rode his horse across the island inspecting roads and docks, issuing decrees to improve trade and agriculture. He treated Elba as a laboratory of efficiency, a miniature France, you might say. But behind this seemingly innocent activity, Napoleon plotted. News from the mainland trickled in. The Bourbon monarchy, restored under Louis XVIII, was faltering. French veterans were disillusioned, taxes were high, and rumors of foreign interference filled the cafes of Paris. Napoleon saw his chance. In February of 1815, he slipped past the British patrols, loaded 1,000 of his loyal guards onto a small flotilla, and set sail for France. When he landed, the local garrison was sent to arrest him. He faced them unarmed, stepping into the road. "Soldiers," he said, opening his coat, "if there is one among you who would kill his emperor, here I am." No one fired. Instead, they all cheered. The road to Paris lay open. What followed was one of the most astonishing comebacks in history. As Napoleon marched north, soldiers, citizens, and officials rallied to him. Each town that tried to stop him joined him instead, and by the time he reached Paris, the Bourbon king had fled. For 100 days, from March to June of 1815, Napoleon was once again Emperor of the French. But Europe would not tolerate another empire. The Seventh Coalition, Britain, Prussia, Austria, Russia, and their allies, mobilized instantly. Napoleon knew that his only hope was a quick, divisive strike before this said coalition armies could unite. He marched into Belgium to confront the British under Duke of Wellington, along with their Prussian allies. It all came down to a small village south of Brussels, Waterloo. On June 18, 1815, the battlefield was soaked in rain and mud. Napoleon, ever the strategist, believed that he could break Wellington's center before the Prussians arrived. His artillery thundered and his infantry advanced. But delays, confusion, and the relentless weather conspired against him. When the Prussian forces finally joined the fight in the late afternoon, the French line collapsed. It was over. Waterloo wasn't just a battle lost, it was an empire undone. Napoleon fled back to Paris, hoping to rally another army, but the magic was gone. The Chamber of Deputies demanded his abdication. On June 22nd, he gave up his throne for the second and now last time. This time, his enemies wouldn't make the same mistake. There would be no second Elba. In July of 1815, Napoleon surrendered to the British, hoping to live quietly in England as a private citizen. But London had other plans. They chose a place so remote, so isolated, that escape would be impossible. Saint Helena, a volcanic island in the South Atlantic, nearly 1,200 miles from the nearest continent. The journey there actually took 2 months. When he arrived, Napoleon looked over his new kingdom. A few square miles of wind-scorched cliffs, endless gray sea, and, well, not much else. The British governor, Sir Hudson Lowe, was polite but weary. Every letter Napoleon wrote, every visitor he received, was monitored. He was forbidden to leave the island, even for a walk beyond certain limits. He was given a residence, Longwood House, damp, moldy, and perpetually cold. Gone were the drums and trumpets of empire. Gone the glory and ceremony. All that remained was the sea, the wind, and his memories. Napoleon, even in defeat, refused to be idle, however. He dictated his memoirs, reconstructed his campaigns, and sought to control the narrative of his life. To his secretary, he said, "What a novel my life has been." He portrayed himself as a misunderstood reformer, a man who brought law and order to Europe, who sought peace but was forced into war by jealous monarchs. He studied history, philosophy, and geography. He walked his small garden and debated politics with his few remaining officers. But beneath his intellect and discipline, his health began to fail. Stomach pains, fatigue, and depression took hold. The endless dampness of Longwood House aggravated his condition. By 1820, he was visibly ill. In the spring of 1821, bedridden and barely able to eat, he dictated his final words. France, Army, Josephine. He died on May 5, 1821, at the age of just 51. Even in death, Napoleon's story refused to end. His body was buried on Saint Helena under a simple tomb marked only with the word Napoleon. The British denied him any imperial title, fearing that his legend would live on. It did anyway. 20 years later, in 1840, the French king Louis-Philippe negotiated the return of Napoleon's remains. When his coffin reached Paris, 1 million people lined the streets to see it. He was laid to rest in a monumental sarcophagus in the same building that had once housed his soldiers. The man they had once exiled to oblivion had become immortal. Napoleon's years in exile are often treated as an epilogue, but in many ways they defined his legacy. Elba showed his resilience and administrative genius. Even in miniature, he governed like an emperor. Saint Helena showed his humanity. The same man who had redrawn Europe now spent his days redrawing his past. And together, they transformed him from mere conqueror into myth. To some, he was a tyrant who plunged Europe into decades of war. To others, a visionary who spread the ideals of merit, reform, and modern governance. His Napoleonic Code still underpins legal systems across the world. His administrative reforms shaped modern bureaucracy. His charisma inspired revolutions and republics from South America to the Middle East. And yet, the end of his life reminds us that even the greatest ambitions can be undone by time, distance, and the weight of history. Hopefully, today's episode has inspired you to seek out and learn more about this subject. For answers to questions, sources for today's episode, to leave a comment, or check out upcoming guest announcements, visit www.historyshortspodcast.com or look for History Shorts Podcast on Facebook, Patreon, and X. Stay curious, and I will talk to you all tomorrow.